What's up, everyone? Criddle here, and I want to talk about the patch that we had yesterday. It was a pretty big patch, pretty good patch, and I wanted to give my thoughts on it, a little overview of it, and then kind of go over some of that patch with you. And then also would love to hear from you about your thoughts on the patch down below, and anything that you think of going good or bad with Visionary Realms, let me know down in the comments below and we'll discuss those. So the first thing is Veil of Aceres. This is a brand new fresh start server. I personally feel like we didn't need a fresh start server right now, but it will be a good way for Visionary Realms to check out the new coin drop stuff that we're going to talk about down here. So maybe it will be a good introduction to a new economy, and we can get some information for that. Next up, they did add in some new auto attack animations for humans, elves, halflings, and Darkmere. They did not add any for the ogres and dwarves yet. I personally play a dwarf, but the ones that they did add in over here were very cool. It adds a little bit new types of animations so that your characters look a little bit different when they're doing the stuff, and it's not the same exact attack over and over. So it is nice to see that they are making some of those changes. These next two things are both PvP related, and a lot of people will not like that because Visionary Realms did say in the past that they are not going to be messing with PvP, but this change is probably very good for those people that do play on the PvP servers. So players engaged in combat with other players can no longer leave a group, be kicked from a group, or invite or be invited to a group. And then going forward for the PvP rule set, group leadership will transfer. Group leadership transfer will be prevented where possible, and if it fails, the group will be disbanded. These are very, very good for the PvP because it allows people to grief other people by, putting them in their group, kicking them out of their group, and instantly killing them, things like that. And anywhere they can alleviate griefing is always a good thing, in my opinion. Reduce the ability tooltip pop-up delay slightly. This is a very good thing that they added previously in the last patch, where the tooltip doesn't instantly pop up when you hover over it. It has a few second delay. That delay was a bit too long. They brought that back a little bit, and it does feel a lot nicer now. Confirmation requests such as group invites from players that are being ignored will now automatically be denied. Another griefing thing that, is nice, that players can no longer grief you if you want to ignore them. And then item buffs being added and removed are no longer displayed by the scrolling combat text UI. The only thing I want to say about this is it's nice that they hopefully did remove this, but it seems that it may have bugged some items. I did get reports from other players that the Wyken pants, the ones that have the plus 10% sprint speed on them, were no longer working, or at least the buff icon was no longer showing up that used to show up when they had those pants on. So double check, make sure that those items are working properly, and if they aren't, make sure you go out and bug report them. Speaking of bugs, we're going to move down here. There's several bug fixes. This one is worded very weirdly, but fixes for some item issues that sometimes happen when players looted items from corpses or traded items. I have no idea what that refers to, but in this same breath, I want to talk about the bug that happened yesterday when the servers first came up. There was a trade fail issue where every single trade said it failed in chat, and it did not seem to work, but there was a bug where you could then log out, log back in. You did then have the item, and if the other player that traded you the item logged out and logged back in, they would have lost the item, but that caused a big dupe problem. The short version of that is they did immediately take the servers down. It took about an hour, 2 hours, something like that after the servers came up. They recognized the problem. They took the servers down, and then they kept them down for a couple hours while they fixed it, brought them back up, and they did have to do a bit of a rollback on the coin for those servers because people did, in fact, dupe a bunch of coins. Not a lot of people did, but there were some people out there that did that, and those players are now getting checked out, let's say, and some players have been suspended for doing it. So be sure, if you find those dupe bugs or glitches, just report them. Don't abuse them. Let them know, and hopefully they get fixed very quickly. I do want to give props to Visionary Realms for taking the servers down quickly, fixing that problem, and then bringing it back up. So thank you so much for that. Fix the crash that sometimes happened when a group disbanded. I never had this issue, but I'm glad that they fixed it. Fix an issue where clearing the key mapping for sprint and then trying to rebind it to shift, alt, or control, and then it failed. Glad they fixed that. I never actually done that. I always use shift for my sprint key. Fix the primary hand attack animation being interrupted by secondary hand attack animation while dual wielding. This probably has something to do with the animations up here. So when they change these animations, hopefully that's when they went in and fixed these. That's most likely what was going on there, I'm guessing. And then fixed an area in AVP where the zoning people into Throne Fast. This has been a problem since the very beginning of early access. I'm hoping, and I did not actually check this today, and I should have, but I'm hoping that is the area to the northwest side of AVP near the Gadai camps, where it's just zones you back and forth between AVP and Throne Fast. That's always been very annoying in that area as a low-level player running through there. Corrected an issue that was preventing named Brine Call goblins from dropping quest items properly in some circumstances. The only thing I can think about this is it's either the Brine Claw totem or it might also be the Boon of the Geldasi necklace item. So if you know anything else about this, let me know in the comments down below, but hopefully they just fix some of those issues. Moving on, we have the world here. Visual effects have been added to several gatherable plants to make them easier to spot in the world. This is a fantastic change. So now whenever you see the plants, they actually sparkle, and they sparkle different colors, which I thought was a very cool change. They're not just like this, one type of color. It is based on the type of plant that you're getting. For example, I saw like a flame, whatever it's called, flame flower or whatever, and it was kind of a sparkling an orange yellow color. And then I saw some other things that were like a blue color and some other things that were white, etc. And there were different colors of sparkles that are on them, so you can easily recognize those from a distance without having to run all the way over to them, because some people might only be looking for certain things. So we got citizens are rejoicing. We have new haircuts and clothing providing distinct looks. This goes along with some monk style changes we'll talk about down here. This one we're going to elaborate a little bit more on because this is a very, very big one. And I'm glad that they did add this in or make some changes finally to this because it has been a problem for a while. So coin drop amounts have been adjusted in every zone: Throne Fast, AVP, Houndier Cave, Wild's End, Eastern Plains, and Silent Plains. So literally everywhere in the game, the coin drop amounts have changed. Yesterday we were talking about this, and I went and checked some of it today, and the coin drops were reduced significantly almost across the board, especially those like the Ghost in Houndier Cave and the Crypt Fiends that are also in Houndier Cave that used to drop 6 gold or something every time you killed one. Those have all been reduced down into the silver range, maybe 1 gold per enemy. And if you split that between your entire party, you're only getting a few silver each. Most of these mobs now drop copper. Even the Wild's End mobs that are level 35 to 40, they seem to not get any change whatsoever. And if they did, it was actually lowered. We were doing that this evening, and we were only getting about 20 to 30 copper in a group split for those Wild's End Feralings. I think personally that they went a little too far with this and they dropped the amounts too much in some cases, and it may need to be adjusted further. But I do say that I would rather them have dropped it too much and it be too low than they put it way too high and then everybody just gets super rich, even though on a lot of these servers they are already super rich. In addition to that, some NPC loot tables have been adjusted to drop more appropriate loot for the NPC type. That is on a couple of these here in Eastern Plains, Silent Plains, and in Wild's End. I didn't see many things different from what I was fighting. I did fight, like I said, the Feralings quite a bit. We did get the named Feraling, the level 40 named Feraling again tonight. It did not drop any new loot, so don't worry about going to try to farm that. It does not have anything worth getting yet unless you're just trying to do XP. But then we also talk about here, further adjustments to loot tables are planned for future updates, but that is for Eastern Plains and then also down here for Silent Plains. So I'm not sure where Silent Plains and Eastern Plains, they're going to be getting some different things, some different updates, etc. And then the skinning tables have been updated for many animals in Eastern Plains, and then also same thing down here for Silent Plains. Some animals that could possibly be skinned for incorrect pelts are temporarily no longer available to be skinned. These animals will receive their own skinning tables in the future. I think that people were getting something like frog skins or something from different types of animals. It was a whole weird thing that was happening in Silent Plains and Eastern Plains, but hopefully those things have been fixed. I think that is going to be everything about the NPC update. But yeah, let me know down in the comments if you have any further information on these kinds of things. But just note that the coin drops are significantly reduced, but also the amount of spells, the spell cost amount is also much, much lower. They lowered, some of those spells that were up to a mithril or something are down now in the gold range rather than being multiple mithril. That was crazy to see on some spells that were high level. Dire Lord. Dire Lord got a new ability here called Call of the Dire at level 20, channel the overwhelming will of the Dire upon an enemy, reducing their movement speed by 60% and drawing them towards you against their will. This spell, it seems like it's really cool, but ultimately it's not that great. It's on, I believe, a 2-minute cooldown and 400 essence. The cool thing about it is, from what I could tell, is you could cast this on an enemy and it's about a 10-second duration. And during that time, you could sit there and beat on the enemy and it just keeps coming towards the Dire Lord. So it's a great way to just do a little bit of DPS on a mob while your healer, is catching up with heals, etc. So could be useful for some things, but I just don't see many Dire Lords using that. They have better abilities to use. Erode Flame now properly uses the caster's stat contributions and grants threat to the druid. I did check this out a little bit on my druid, who's level 26. I didn't see many, like a big change in the amount of healing that I was doing, but hopefully that threat does now go to the druid. I think that the threat should have always gone to the druid, but it did not. So now that threat is going to go to the druid. This is a good change. I do think that Herode's heal, in my opinion, should come up a little bit, and the Talisman heal should probably come down a little bit, and that needs to be adjusted in the future. But right now, it is what it is, and it's fine. Added Kalen's command at level 20. Speak a word of command to a target animal, converting them into a friendly target for 30 seconds. Now, I didn't get a chance to test this, and I didn't talk to anybody, in fact, that did test this, but it sounds almost like a charm for animals for the ranger. But I think if it was an actual charm and you were able to take that animal and command it to actually do other things, that would have been talked about quite a bit more. So my guess is this is more of a lull type of ability or a mez type of ability to just make it a friendly target for 30 seconds, and then you can just walk right by it if you needed to do so. But it doesn't necessarily change it into a charm type thing. That would have been very nice. Warrior changes, we're going to go over these fairly quickly, and I'm going to probably do another video on that, as I do play and main a warrior. If you've been to my channel, you've probably seen me play it quite a bit. But the warrior changes are significant and honestly fantastic. Like I said, I'm going to probably do another video going over these, but we're going to go over each of the detail or each of the bullet points very quickly. So banners are now slotted as stances. You can have up to 3 slotted at a time. This is a huge quality of life change, I guess. Instead of having all of your banners, being on your utility bar and taking up 3 of your 6 slots on your utility bar, they now take up 0 slots, and they are all going to be on your stance bar, which are little circles. If you have these on your bar, I talked to a couple people that were having issues with this. Take them off of your bar, right click them, clear them off of your bar, and then try to re-equip them, and it will put them in those stances down there. If you had them on your bar prior to the patch, then it may have messed up your utility bar a little bit, and it could be a little bit confusing. So make sure you right click them and take them off. Increase the banner duration to 5 minutes. It says already live. I'm not sure why it says that. And increase beneficial detrimental effects range by 5 meters. I did test this out, and this is a very nice change. They do last for 5 minutes, and the range is much larger now, making those banners way more effective, and you don't have to spend the 2 battle points as often. They were, I believe, 45 seconds before, and now they're 5 minutes long, which is fantastic. Once you establish a camp, you can throw down a banner, and you're good to go for those 5 minutes. Pound, Pulverize, and Demolish have been renamed to Pulverize and given ranks. Pound is now Pulverize rank 1, Pulverize is now rank 2, and Demolish is now Pulverize rank 3. Each of these ranks causes the disempower effect on the target less than 40% health. And then we also have Shatter, or Smash and Shatter have been renamed to Smash and given ranks. Smash is now the first rank. Shatter is now rank 2 of Smash. Both of these will stun once the mob is below 20% health. These two are fantastic changes. I really like that. One thing that a lot of people may notice is that you went from having 5 different abilities down to 2 different abilities. This makes room for all of these other abilities down here. Like I said, I don't want to go into too much detail now because I'll probably do a warrior video later. But that's what's going on with that. The cooldowns of the pulverize and smash lines have increased to 30 seconds, and both lines share a cooldown with each other, as do the ranks in each line. I did notice that, and just be aware of that. You only really want to use pulverize or smash now. Pick which one you want to use. Having both of them on your bar is probably not beneficial, because then you take away a spell slot that you could be using something else. And since they do share a cooldown, it really just lowers your amount of DPS. Again, I'll put that in the warrior video. Additions. So these are things that they added in, which is a lot of new things for the warrior. Added shield prowess at level 10. Your prowess will with the shield grants you increased offensive capabilities after blocking. Successful blocks will reduce the cooldown of your pound and smash line of abilities by 2 seconds. Additionally, for 10 seconds after blocking, you will be able to retaliate with the punish ability. This is a really cool ability. I really like that a lot. And it adds a new play style to the warrior. Basically, every time you block, you can use this punish ability. And then this successful blocking just makes it to where you want to use a shield more often. Pretty much everything that they did with the warrior here makes you want to use the shield more often, which is very nice. Added punish at level 10. Punish the enemy with a powerful shield strike, dealing physical damage that generates increased threat and 1 battle point. Punish must follow a successful block, so that just goes along with this shield prowess ability that you get at level 10, and then it gives you this ability of punish. Added hammering blow line starting at level 12. Hammer the edge of your shield into your enemy, dealing physical damage. If the target is below 25% health, gain upper hand, reducing physical damage by 15%. Again, this is a very good ability because it just, more things that you can do with a shield. I personally don't feel like this 25% health thing, giving the 15% damage reduction, is all that great. And again, I'll talk about more of that in the warrior video. Added banner of warding line starting at level 14. Plant a banner of war near you for 5 minutes. Remaining within 15 meters of the banner will increase your group's spell mitigation by 10%, while also increasing the physical damage your group receives by 10%. So effectively, this is going to reduce the amount of damage you take from spells by 10%. Sorry, I said 15, I think, by 10%, but it's also going to increase the physical damage your entire party takes by 10%. So it's a kind of an offset type of ability, and it gives warriors a little bit more versatility against spellcasters, whereas right now they're mostly just physical mitigation tanks. I personally don't like that they added this in. I would much rather them have just focused on the warrior and being the physical tanks that they are, but there we go. That is now added to the game. Added cleave line starting at level 14 requires two-handed weapon. Cleave your weapon through the air, dealing physical damage to enemies in a 120-degree arc in front of you. So really nice ability to have, but it does cost 3 battle points. That is the biggest problem with this ability. So you're basically, if you have 2 or more mobs in front of you, and you don't have an enchanter or somebody to mez it, then that is a good spell to use, and you're just going to sit there and cleave, or I think heavy cleave is the upgraded version to that, and it's a very nice ability to have. Other than that, with a two-handed weapon, not much change with the warrior. So basically, if you get multiple mobs, this is great. Otherwise, you really want to just do swordboard or dual wield still. Added counterplay line at level 16. Brace your weapon with your shield, causing physical damage to attackers when you successfully block. This is also upgraded, I believe, to the retaliate skill, which is a really nice ability. I think it does something like 20 to 30 damage at counterplay, and then upwards of like 50 to 60 damage with the retaliate. It's a good amount of damage. It lasts for 30 seconds on a 2-minute cooldown. Very, very good ability if you get multiple enemies coming in, and a great way for a warrior to be able to hold threat against multiple targets, just in case you have a healer that is trying to heal you through that, and it won't just instantly go to the healer, and you're having to tab across all of those different mobs. Added shield throw at level 20. Hurl your shield at the target, dealing physical damage and knocking the target down for 3 seconds. While your shield is traveling, you will be shieldless and unable to use shield abilities. I say you will be useless because you're no longer going to be blocking during this time. I personally was super excited about this when I first saw it, and then I tried it out, and I cannot say that I will be using that ability much, if at all. It is on a 1 minute cooldown, and it is nice for the 3 second knockdown, but other than that, it is kind of a pointless skill at this time. I think it would have been a great skill to have for pulling if it was on a shorter cooldown where you could just throw it, use it to tag mobs and pull them back rather than using your bow and arrow. Would have been nice. Or maybe if it was an AoE type of thing where it would bounce like, Captain America style, and it would bounce between 2 or 3 different mobs and then come back to you. That would also be kind of nice. But since it's on a 1 minute cooldown, not really worth using. I believe it also does cost a battle point. And then the 3 second knockdown is nice. So when a mob runs from you, you have a 3 second knockdown to them to prevent them from running. But I think that Close the Gap or Storm are probably better options when they're running from you to just chase them down. It is a minimum, I think, of 5 meters and a maximum of 25 meter range on that. Mighty Yelp at level 22. Release a Mighty Yelp, taunting up to 4 enemies within a 10 meter radius and snaring those NPCs for 10 seconds. This is a fantastic ability to have an AoE taunt, and I think that is probably one of the best things that they could have added to the warrior. The problem with that is that you don't really need it too much. I didn't really get a chance to check the snaring on there. I actually completely forgot about the snaring until I just read it again. So I might have to get around to testing this out a little bit more. And then when I make that warrior video, I'll talk to you about it. But this could be a fantastic ability to have, especially if you're pulling multiple mobs. Or, if you have a lot of mobs just kind of around you that are mezzed, you can hit that ability before you attack one of them. It's just an extra taunt. It is on a 1 minute cooldown though. So you can't just use it all the time. You got to kind of use it a little bit sparingly. So there is that. Added Shield Mastery at level 30. Your Mastery of the Shield grants you increased offensive capabilities after blocking. Successful blocks will reduce the cooldown of your Mighty Yelp line by 2 seconds. And your Pound and Smash line of abilities by an additional 2 seconds. Additionally, having a shield equipped will increase your outgoing physical damage by 15%. This is an amazingly awesome ability. I'm glad that they have that. And it takes this Pound and Smash line with an additional 2 seconds, lowering that by 4 seconds every time you block, which means that you can use your Pound or Smash abilities quite often. So those are all the changes for the warrior. Again, I will do another video that's talking about the warrior, hopefully in the next couple of days, since I do play that in main and warrior. Moving on to wizard. Let me take a drink. All right, moving on to wizard. Added Dragonfire Bomb at level 30. So it's breathe a slow moving ball of dragonfire that damages all enemies in its path until it detonates, dealing splash fire damage to all nearby enemies. This is an amazing ability for AoE, and again, it kind of goes back up here to the AoE up in this right here, with the Mighty Yelp. I personally feel like they should limit all AoEs to a maximum of 4 mobs. I believe EverQuest did that, and that's why there was a thing called quad kiting, because you could never hit more than 4 mobs in most situations, and I think they need to embrace that with this game as well. Dire Lords, for example, can hit as many mobs as they want that are in front of them with their splatter ability, and now we have wizards that are able to do this Dragonfire Bomb, and it can hit as many mobs that it goes through or is near, and then when it explodes, it hits everything in that area. One thing I do want to note is that this ability did not work very well. I mean, it worked, but it worked a little too well because it also worked on players when the servers first came up. They did take the servers down to fix the dupe glitch, and when they did that, they also fixed this problem as well. So that was a fun little couple hours where people were going around killing other players, even on a PvE server. That all said, From what I could tell of it, the Dragonfire Bomb does a decent amount of damage, but nothing to really write home about. So it's still a fun thing to use. And if you have, multiple mobs that you are fighting, which in most cases you are not going to be doing that because tanks do not hold AoE aggro very well, at least not yet until we can figure out how to make warriors do it a little bit better. And then maybe with the splatter ability on Dire Lords, they'll be able to use this. But again, I think it should be a maximum of maybe 4 mobs during that. These additions down here to the wizard, so stat scaling increased on all of these different abilities, were definitely a big change for wizards. I personally use Ice Volley quite a bit on my wizard. I also have the belt and the White Wyvern totem, so my ice damage is significantly higher, and using Ice Volley felt really, really good. I was doing about 1,000 damage at level 22 with one Ice Volley, so it's 4 separate ticks, one every second, 250 to 300 damage, something like that every single tick. So it was feeling really, really good. I would love to see more changes for the wizard coming soon. Hopefully more stuff that takes away the focus abilities or changes the focus aspect of the wizard to make them a little bit more fun to play, because just right now they just don't feel fun. But with these new updates, you are now hitting a lot harder with your abilities, which is good, and that's how a wizard should be. They should not have to cast many spells, but when they do cast a spell, it should mean a lot. Moving down here to items, we have Mystics tattered leather breeches now apply the correct amount of bonus stats. So that was, I believe, a crafted item that was just not, it was giving like +5 constitution or something from what somebody told me. And now it is supposed to get the correct stats. In preparation for the release of crafting work orders, the contents of treasure chests in low level areas have been adjusted. I don't know exactly what's going on with this. I don't keep up with a lot of the crafting stuff because I'm just not a big fan of the crafting in this game. I think it's just in a bad state. But the contents of treasure chests and low-level areas has been adjusted. And then that goes down here to the T1 crafting schematics that will be obtained from work orders in the future have been flagged as no trade. So I think that these two things kind of go together, and you in the future will not be getting your crafting schematics from the treasure chest. You will be getting those schematics from these different work orders, I believe is the idea, which is definitely a much better way of getting them. I just don't like the idea of going out and getting treasure chests, finding all of them just to get a random chance at a schematic. But anyway, I think that crafting just needs a lot of changes, and these are some of those changes that are coming down the line for that. Visuals for monk-specific armor have been updated. Additional visual updates for armor of all types will occur as artwork becomes available. So we were able to see some of these monk changes. They do look great on the few items that you do have. It is monk-specific armor. So if you have stuff from Bushu, for example, I believe every single one of the items from Bushu has changed. I have a friend that is a level 50 monk and has all of those items. He put them on, and it looks pretty cool. It's very nice to see that they are finally adding in some armor, and not every character is going to be running around in a brown paper bag. So very cool to see those changes coming in. Vendor prices for most spells and abilities have been adjusted. We talked about that previously. They have come down a lot. I think the most expensive spell that for my level 40 spells was like 30 gold or something like that. I believe a friend of mine has a level 48 spell, I think, as a summoner that used to be 2 mithril and is down in the gold range now. It is no longer even a mithril. So it was nice to see those changes. Damage values for various types of arrows have been rebalanced. Please note that further tuning may occur in future updates as refinements are made to range combat damage. This right here, refinements are made to range combat damage. This is a big one, especially for rangers. So I'm glad to see they're finally taking a look at this, because that has just not been very good for rangers. But the damage values for various types of arrows rebalance. Every instance that I personally saw of this, it was about half the amount of damage. So if you had an arrow that was doing 12 damage, it is now 6 damage. My personal arrows that I have are 12 down to 6. The one that drops off of Nidar, I think it's the fang-tipped arrow. They went from 12 down to 6, but the crit rating on there still stayed the same. That's 18 crit rating. So still a very, very good arrow to have in the game. They didn't change any of that. They just changed the damage amount. So just be aware that they did do that. Soulcaller's Mallet is now classified as a Warhammer, and then the stack size for summoned globes of water has been increased. I don't really know that anybody was worried about that too much, but hey, there you go. And then we have some more crafting stuff. Nothing happened with quest, and then nothing really happened with crafting, sorry, and then general. So general stat bonuses have been adjusted for many tier 1 rare crafted items. In some cases, the requirements to create these items have been adjusted as well. I haven't messed with any of those, so if you know anything about how those change, let me know down in the comments. And then tailoring Celestium Dust of Might can now probably be used when crafting a rune shawl basis, and salvaging some changes as well. Now, because they brought down the server because of the dupe glitch, they did make a few more changes, so we're going to go ahead and go over those also during this. They added a class icon entry to the character list and selected screen. This was actually kind of a nice change, and I feel like they also made those character selections larger, so they're just easier to read, easier to see. Very, very nice change there. I do like that quite a bit. Fix an issue that was causing trades to fail. This, I think we talked about that previously. That was the big bug that was causing trades to fail, and then people were able to dupe based on that. And then fix an issue with Dragonfire Bomb. We talked about that. And then fixed an issue where Stuck was allowing players to return to where they had died after releasing or returning to bind. I didn't experience this, but I think that is kind of crazy that people were able to basically stuck bind and then stuck back to their corpse. It's kind of like just a jump around back and forth between those two. That is kind of nuts. But anyway, they fixed that. And then visuals for Crescent Fang armor for monks has been updated. I think prior to looking at the monk armor up here, the visuals for the monk specific armor, and I think that's why I think I said just a minute ago that only some of the stuff has changed, and that was like the Bushu stuff. It's probably because these things weren't in. So I'll have to double check to see about those. But what I did see of the monks looked really good. And then the first part of the Empowered Gildasi necklace questline are available. But as a result, the Whisper Beneath the Web currently being unable to be completed, the boon will remain on the original necklace. So this is the last thing we're going to talk about in this. Today, I actually did do all of those quests leading up to this particular quest here, which is the Whisper Beneath the Web. They are a fantastic quest. I really like that, and I'm glad that they are adding in more content like that to the game. Personally, I feel like they need to be adding in more content like dungeons and enemies to fight, but adding in those quests will be good for the future of the game. Anyway, that is going to be it for this update recap. Hopefully you found that helpful. If you did, please like, subscribe, follow, all that kind of stuff. Look forward to my video on the Warrior update. We're going to go into a lot more detail on the Warrior in the next video. Hopefully I can make that this weekend. And then I'll also try to make a video going over the next few quests in the necklace line down here. So look for those. And as always, come over to my Twitch channel if you want to chat about the game. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.